Now, here's an incredibly bizarre story. One evening, I arrived at my home to discover that my boss had actually called the police to try and get me to come into work on a Sunday. And when that didn't work, he had sent a taxi to my home to take me there. And when I wasn't there was a note left on my door to come to the office as soon as possible. Now, as bizarre as that might sound, here's the background on this. I was a junior lawyer, and when I interviewed for this position, the people who were conducting the interview were very clear with me as to what the job entailed. I was going to be working with a founding partner. I was going to be basically doing the bulk of the support work for his practice. But he had a reputation. He had a reputation for not being able to work with people. In fact, usually the duration of tenure with this person was about 1 year, and then the lawyer would move on to somewhere else. But I was a pretty easygoing person, and I felt that I could handle that, and I took on the position. But I made it very clear, because I had 3 small boys at the time, that I wasn't prepared to simply be there for the sake of being there. I would be there when the work necessitated it. So, this particular Sunday, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I decided to take my 3 boys and my wife out for a trek. I think we drove to Barrie so that we could spend some time on Lake Simcoe, and we ended up spending the entire day and didn't get home until quite late. I think it was somewhere around midnight. And when I walk up to my door, I see a sign on the door that says, "Daryl, come into work as soon as possible." And when I entered the house, we had one of those old, tape answering machines. It was flashing, and I start I start playing the messages. And it was a pretty humorous exercise. There were 12 messages, one each hour. The first one was fairly civil. It was this founding partner calling me saying he'd like to discuss a few things to come, and he'd like me to come into the office. As time went on, it got more choppy, more guttural, to the point where the last few messages, there were heavy sighs and sometimes the inaudible comment and a hang up, but I knew it was from him. I also knew how to leave a message on his voicemail without having his phone ring. So at around 1 in the morning, I left a message that I would be in the office in the morning and we would discuss it then. So next morning, I arrive, walk into the office. I look down the hallway, and there he is standing in front of my office. He's red-faced, and he's literally, when he sees me, almost jumping up and down. And I come up to him and I say to this founding partner, I'm going to grab a coffee. I'll be in your office in 15 minutes. Let's sit down and discuss this. And that's what I did. And that shocked everybody at the time. But I knew that he was pretty upset, and I gave him a little bit of time to think about it. So I came in, and we talked about his need to have me in the office at that point. It wasn't urgent. He knew it wasn't urgent. And I reiterated, look, I'll be here when I need to be here, but I'm not going to simply be here for the sake of being here. Shortly after that, he actually left a gift on my desk saying thank you for the work that I was doing on his behalf. Years later, I didn't realize the total impact that this actually charade had. I went to a Lifetime Achievement Award for this particular individual. And when I sat down with the lawyers at the table, they chuckled, because apparently that particular day and that incident had become a legendary story in the office. They were smiling in recounting their reaction and the staff's reaction, because no one would ever stand up to this individual. Yet, when I did, it established the boundaries that needed to be established, and we had a very positive working relationship going forward. It was really quite something, because when he was trying to phone the police, It wasn't him doing it. He phoned his office manager, who actually was on her way to the airport to see her parents in the UK, or I think her dad was ill at the time. And he instructed her to call the RCMP and have them track me down. And she refused to do that, of course, and said that's simply not going to work. And that's how he came around to getting the taxi. But what's the learning or the message in all of this? I don't think it helps anyone's career to simply say yes to everything. You don't garner respect if you don't establish the boundaries within which you are prepared to work. And of course, they have to be reasonable boundaries. They have to accentuate what you're doing on the job. But you need to establish your own legitimacy and your own credibility. And you don't do that by simply kowtowing all the time to those who appear to have more power than you because of their position. You need to establish what you are comfortable with, and it has to be grounded with the work that you're doing. And I think by indicating to that individual that I wasn't simply going to be there all the time, he then knew to measure his requests and to assess them and to ensure that they were reasonable going forward. So that's the message of today. Rather interesting and an amazing story. I hope you liked it. And if you did, I hope you'll tune in again at some point. Thank you.